Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Home of Comics. It's Brayden back with another Marvel Cinematic Universe video. Today, we're going to be breaking down everything we currently know about Ghost Rider. It's coming in 2028. It was announced at San Diego Comic-Con. It's going to star Ryan Gosling, directed by Sean Levy. It'll be the July spot, July 28th for Marvel Studios. Look, Ghost Rider has this rough history on screen. We got two Nicolas Cage movies that most people remember as like okay, it was all right, I guess. They weren't terrible. Some people think they're terrible. If you ask my friend Gustavo, Spirit of Vengeance is absolute cinema. But everything about this new film suggests Marvel might actually be doing something a little bit different this time. So I'm going to break down everything that we currently know about the film. I'm going to break down everything that's rumored about the movie. And then I'm also going to tell you what I think should happen with Ghost Rider. So we know, obviously, Ryan Gosling is playing Ghost Rider. What version? That's a question mark. We know that Sean Levy's directing this, fresh off Deadpool and Wolverine for the studio. We know that Jonathan Troper is writing the movie. We know it's coming out July 28th, 2028, and it's going to be the 42nd movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and the second of three Marvel movies releasing in 2028, sandwiched between the Untitled X-Men reboot in May and Black Panther 3, also sort of untitled, in December. So that in and of itself is actually pretty notable. Marvel hasn't done three movie releases in a single year since 2025. That was last year for us, but for them it'll be 3 years from then. That was Captain America: Brave New World, Thunderbolts, Asterisk, and Fantastic Four: First Steps. And that year was pretty mixed. I think most people liked Thunderbolts. They didn't go out to see it, but it made its headway on streaming. Fantastic Four, a good amount of people saw it. It was pretty well received. But Cap 4, maybe enough people saw it, but didn't like it at all. So there's a little bit of pressure baked into the slate this time. Another detail worth talking about, Gosling and Levy actually have already worked together. They're currently working on Star Wars Starfighter, out May 2027, also written by Troper. So this is basically the exact same creative trio moving from one blockbuster directly into another. Is this good chemistry, or is this a disaster waiting to happen? I truthfully don't know. But why Ryan Gosling for Ghost Rider? This seems like a little bit out of left field. Gosling's probably not the first person you'd think of when you think of the comic book character, but it all makes kind of a lot of sense once you look at Gosling's filmography. Gosling's best roles are all quiet, wounded men who are just one bad day away from going mad, as Batman would probably say. Drive, which is written by Hossein Amini, who's also doing Clayface. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. The Nice Guys, even Blade Runner 2049. He's incredible at playing a guy holding something back. And that's the whole thesis of Johnny Blaze as a character. That's one of the Ghost Riders we're going to be talking about. He's not a guy who wants power. He's not, craving power. He doesn't want the powers that he has. He's a guy carrying this curse he cannot control, and the tension of the movies come from watching him try to keep it caged. That's not a pun. And apparently, Gosling actually ended up coming to the studio with what's been described as a specific vision for the character, pulled straight from the comics. That's a good sign. That's an actor who's actually a fan of the character and not just being cast for money. Marvel's been chasing this casting idea for over a decade. Rolling Stone was speculating about Gosling back in like 2013 to play Ghost Rider. So this is one of those rare cases where pretty much everyone was fan casting Gosling, and he actually ended up getting cast. So which Ghost Rider are we getting? We've got a lot of Ghost Riders in the comics. There's four mainline ones, and this is probably the biggest open question right now. This is going to matter a lot for how the movie's going to feel. For people who don't read the comics, I know I don't always. Here are the four Ghost Riders. Johnny Blaze, the original stunt motorcycle rider who makes a deal with a demon called Zarathos to save his adoptive father's life. This is the version that Nicolas Cage played in his two movies. Danny Ketch, sometimes Blaze's younger brother, a street level version from like the 90s. Carter Slade, the Old West Ghost Rider. He rode a spectral horse instead of a motorcycle. A lot more gothic horror western in tone. Robbie Reyes. This is maybe one that people are familiar with. The modern, he's a street racer version. You probably know him from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is in the MCU, played by Gabriel Luna. Is it canon? I don't know, but with the universe reset, it almost doesn't matter, does it? Wonder if that's purposeful in any way. Marvel hasn't confirmed which one Gosling is playing, but about every outlet reporting on this assumes it's Johnny Blaze, probably because he's the version that general audiences already recognize from the Cage movies, and because the character's built in mythology, the deal with the devil, the stunt performer backstory, it all is very very easy to adapt to a solo origin film. So I assume it's Blaze, but I wouldn't be shocked if they do some Carter Slade style old Western flashbacks for the origin of the curse itself. That could actually, I guess, be our first Ghost Rider, possibly. That way you can lead into the gothic horror Western aesthetic while also keeping the present day story grounded in whatever Johnny Blaze is doing. That way you can kind of have a different genre, so to say. So let's talk about the supporting cast. Nothing here is locked yet. There's a few names circulating with pretty good sources behind them. Rosamund Pike is reportedly being eyed for the female lead and Blaze's love interest. There's no confirmation here, but if it happens, that's pretty fucking good. Sacha Baron Cohen already played Mephisto in Ironheart, and multiple outlets are reporting he could return to the role here, but not as the main villain. Just an appearance, probably due to the deal with the devil. It might be he made a deal with Mephisto that ends up kicking that whole story off. That actually tracks with how Mephisto usually works in the comics. He's probably the reason the curse exists, but probably not the guy that Blaze is trying to defeat throughout the course of the movie. Which means that the actual main antagonist hasn't been cast or announced yet. That's still wide open, and it's one of the more exciting mysteries surrounding this movie. And there's also a rumor, and I want to stress that this is a rumor, that Ryan Gosling's Ghost Rider could make a cameo appearance in Avengers Secret Wars in 2027, a full year before his solo film, really more like 6 months. If that's true, it would kind of make sense. It's how Marvel sort of handled their other reboots of different characters and different teams, giving audiences a taste of the character before their standalone story. If we talk about Brand New Day, you're getting your first taste of the X-Men with Jean Grey. Even back in the old uh, Infinity Saga, we had our first looks at characters like Spider-Man in Captain America Civil War before rebooting them in Homecoming. Production is reportedly aiming to shoot across California, Nevada, and Oregon, so that's plenty of desert highway stuff that very clearly is what they're probably going to try to go for with this movie, tonally, aesthetically wise. So here's how I think the movie should look. If I'm in the writer's room at Troper, here's what I'm gonna look for. Ghost Rider has failed on screen before because it keeps trying to be that like fun superhero movie, very palatable, a lot of action, with that spooky character of Ghost Rider kind of fitted into the movie. I think it should be the opposite. I think this needs to be a gothic horror western first, and then make it a superhero movie on top of that. So, if we want to take a Ryan Gosling movie, think Supernatural Drive, basically. Also, I'd love practical effects whenever possible. If you can make practical fire, that would be better than a CGI fire for obvious reasons. Now, every Ghost Rider adaptation does some version of sold his soul to save someone he loved. Fine. We can allow that to be the structure still, but let's make it sting. Let's make it a mistake that Blaze caused himself. Give him some actual guilt to carry throughout the course of the story. Gosling is at his best playing guys who did something that they cannot forgive themselves for. The best version of the story is also going to be a horror premise. The spirit of vengeance. Ghost Rider looks into people's souls and burns them if they're guilty, and then Blaze will spend the entire film terrified of what it sees when it looks at him. And Mephisto's confirmed as like a secondary villain or just literally another character in the movie. I'd probably go with someone like Blackout or Deathwatch from the comics. They're obviously more niche, but they let you keep the movie contained and far more like a horror movie than if you were to make it a huge cosmic multiverse adventure bullshit that they are doing currently. So it allows for a different tone, different change of pace. I don't think that Ghost Rider needs to be out here trying to save the world, the universe, whatever. I think it needs to be scary, intimate, R-rated, adjacent. I guess it could be PG-13. Maybe that's what Levy wants to do. But given that he did Deadpool Wolverine, I would say probably more on the R side of things. But make it a horror western that happens to be a Marvel movie, rather than a Marvel movie that is trying to be a horror western but fails. So let's take a look outside of the movie. Let's look at the slate itself. 2028 is stacked. We got X-Men in May, now we've got Ghost Rider in July, we got Black Panther 3 in December. All of this is coming right after Doomsday, and Secret Wars supposedly resets the MCU into that mutant saga. Ghost Rider's placement is interesting because, unlike X-Men or Black Panther, there are no mutants in this project. There's not a single one that I could point to. And I also don't think it has to be tangled up in these universe-level stakes. Whereas I think X-Men's probably going to do something involving, like, the whole world. It's going to be a big deal. Black Panther 3, considering it's the end of the trilogy, I do think they're going to do a lot of a bigger story there. Maybe it's more Wakanda-focused, but I still think that overall it's going to be focused on a larger threat. Ghost Rider can be sort of the palate cleanser of this slate. The smaller, weirder genre movie sitting between two big franchise tentpole films. If Marvel's smart, they're going to let it stay small. That's the version of this character that's actually worked in the comics for over 50 years. So that's everything we know about Ghost Rider and everything I'd want from Ghost Rider dropping July 28th, 2028. Which version of the character do you think Gosling's actually playing? Do you think it's Blaze? Do you think it's Ketch? Do you think it's someone else? And who would you cast as the villain, whether it be Blackout or Death Watch from the comics? Either or, who do you think is playing them? And make sure to like, subscribe, comment down below, all that good stuff. And I'll see you guys in the next video, next Marvel video. All right, take care. Peace.